Blog Talk Radio.
Down to sleep, lay me down. I pray my soul is mine to keep. My soul can never step outside this bed, never into all the evil. Now back from the dead.
Are you scared?
He's here.
The calling hours.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for? If not for shedding.
Another episode of the Calling Hours Horror Podcast on Horror Society Radio. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Once again, it is I, your head undertaker, the dead man, Michael Jones of HorrorSociety.com and Living Dead Magazine. On episode 60 of the Calling Hours Horror Podcast this evening, we are going to have someone on that I have been wanting to have on for a long time. On this episode, we are going to have producer, actor, writer, director, I think I've said that twice now, special effects artist, as well as CEO and owner of Unearthed Films, Stephen Biro. Stephen will be on to discuss a wide variety of things, including his most recent projects that include American Guinea Pig, Bouquet of Guts and Gore, as well as Bubba, the Redneck Werewolf. We're going to look at the expansion of Unearthed Films in the publishing industry with Unearthed Books, and as well as the music side of it with Unearthed Music Group. We're going to talk about some of the cult classic films that have been released by Unearthed Films, titles including the Guinea Pig Series, Black Sun, the Nanking Massacre, Aftermath Genesis, the Vomit Gore Trilogy, Cannibal, Philosophy of a Knife, and more. And we'll talk in general about the struggles and triumphs of life and running a company that has put out such extreme films. So it's really going to be something to talk about. Stephen is a pretty influential guy in my career. Back when I started as a journalist, about 13 years ago, right about when my daughter was born, we had gone down to Florida to visit her family, and Stephen lived about 30 minutes away, and he agreed to invited me to come over to his house and do a video interview with him and his business partner, and it was really an eye-opening experience. Being a new guy in journalism, sometimes it was hard to get stories, to get interesting people, and Stephen really opened the door and was really kind to me as a journalist by letting me in and answering my questions. So tonight I really hope to return the favor. He has so much going on and has been through so much. I'm really glad to see he's still one of the guys that's standing and giving us what we want as genre fans. So more power to Stephen for being here. In our DVD reviews this evening, we will be reviewing Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of Blacula, as well as Chemical Burn Entertainment's Dead Walkers' Rise of the Fourth Reich. Man, it's been years since I've seen Blacula, and I had an absolute blast watching that on Blu-ray. And it is actually paired with Scream Blacula Scream, which we will review on another day. Chemical Burn Entertainment's Dead Walkers, Rise of the Fourth Reich, is kind of a guilty pleasure. There was a lot about the film that I really enjoyed. There's a lot of things that the filmmaker did and some of the things that the actors did that really caught my attention. It makes me want to speak very highly of the film. There's a few things with the plot at the end that, while do not destroy the film, well, you know, we'll talk about it when we get to the DVD review, because I'm not slamming on the film. I'm not shitting on the film. I think it's a good film. I think there's a lot there to look at. So when we get to our digital dismemberment in a few moments, we shall talk about Dead Walkers, Rise of the Fourth Reich. In our Metal Blade Spotlight tonight, we are going to be featuring the band Visigoth and their most recent CD, The Revenant King. In fact, we're going to do that here in a second, but let me give you a little bit of background about Visigoth. Visigoth plays heavy metal that harkens back to the golden age of ironclad riff work and powerful vocals. They pay tribute to the titans of steel that left their mark on the history of the genre, and their earth-shaking sound echoes with a deep reverence for their roots. Visigoth goes above and beyond mere imitation, making their own musical mark on the genre that they lovingly embrace. In Visigoth's realm, there are no frills, no gimmicks. There is only heavy metal. The band's brand of heavy metal fit perfectly with the ranks of Metal Blade Records, who brought the band on board to release their debut full-length album. After signing with the label, Visigoth recorded The Revenant King. The collection of heavy metal tracks was engineered, mixed, and produced by Andy Patterson at Boar's Next Studio in Salt Lake City. So we are going to start our Metal Blade Spotlight off with one of the tracks from Visigoth's The Revenant King. The name of the song is The Dungeon Master. And welcome back. That was the first of 3 tracks tonight by the band in our Metal Blade Spotlight. That band is Visigoth. The name of the CD is The Reverend King. That song was Dungeon Master. We'll have 2 more songs from them coming up here in a little bit. In about 17 minutes, we're going to have our feature interview with producer, actor, writer, director, special effects artist, and all-out badass Stephen Biro of Unearthed Films. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for some digital dismemberment.
Digital dismemberment.
And in our first digital dismemberment spotlight for the evening, the focus is on Chemical Burn Entertainment's Dead Walkers, Rise of the Fourth Reich. This was kind of an interesting film for me. Let me give you the synopsis on this one. Reports of a growing terrorist threat in Romania lead the British Secret Service to send in some of their best men, but nobody returns from the field. In a final attempt to get through, Alpha 1 and Alpha 5 are dispatched to try and uncover the truth. What they discover is a bizarre scientific and occult training ground of neo-Nazis, descendants of Nazis who fled following their defeat in the Second World War. Over the years, they have been researching the energy they call virile and utilizing it to grow an army of men and women who cannot be killed because they are already dead. Attempting to stay undercover and out of sight, Alpha 1 and Alpha 5 come face-to-face with the terror of the Nazi virile soldiers and witness shocking tortures and beatings used to energize the human soul. Mentally twisted, the leaders of this Nazi group are bent on taking over the world with their new virile army and bring about the rise of the Fourth Reich. You know, this is truly a micro-budgeted independent film, and there's a lot that's good about this film, and there's a few things that fall off on this film. The whole time that you're watching it, you're getting the story of Alpha 1. You know, he infiltrates this complex to save someone. He discovers that there are Nazis in there, and they've been in there since probably the end of World War II. And he sees a few strange things, and he realizes that they're trying to build an army of the undead to basically destroy and take over the earth. You know, when you look at the DVD cover for this, I mean, you know, zombies always been a big thing. Nazi-ploitation is a thing too. You know, you could look at the Ilsa series. You can look at movies like SS Hell Camp. So, you know, there's certainly a combination of the two in the genre. This one has an interesting look to it. It definitely has a little bit more of that grindhouse look to it, a little bit of that psychedelic element to it as well. You know, the acting is solid through most of the film. Alpha 1, I really enjoyed him as an actor. His action sequences were nice. I would like to know a little bit more about who he did his fight choreography with, because there were a few in there I was like, man, that looks like it hurts. And it reminded me a lot of being on the set of Z13 in Greensboro, you know, with Brian Lee and all those guys, and they did all their own stunt choreography. So it's kind of fun to watch another film that has that kind of work in it. I enjoyed the lead female in the film. Thought she was a very attractive woman, and I thought she played her role very well. The whole time that Alpha 1 is having his dreams and his hallucinations throughout the film, she's always a key component, and you get the idea that there is a love interest there, but it's never. That's one of the elements of the film that's never fully explored. Now, the thing with the Nazis that's a little strange too is they seem, I don't know if disorganized is the word that I want, and who's to say, you know, that a Nazi outbreak what it would look like. And what I mean by that is, you know, not every Nazi, you know, is a skinhead and has tattoos, and you know, there's so much broad subject matter that you can go through with that. So I found it quite interesting the amount of Nazi paraphernalia they were able to get their hands on for the film. Just from a historical context, I thought that was stunning. So, props goes to set design for putting all that together. The experimentations were kind of weird. It seemed to be like the more they tortured and hurt the individuals that were infected, the stronger they would come back as zombies. So I'm not 100% for sure where they were going with that. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more explanation. The whole time that you're watching the film, too, it may seem a little disjointed from the fact that you're hearing Alpha 1 tell the story to a psychiatrist as they're trying to figure out what really happened. I don't want to give away the whole film, but the ending kind of leaves you wanting for more. I really didn't see the film ending the way that it did. I thought there was a lot more explanation that could have gone on. I felt like there was a whole lot more detail that could have been, gotten into. Again, I really did enjoy the visual style. I'm not going to come right out and say it's a straight grindhouse look, but they certainly gave it that look and feel. The use of CGI was apparent in certain points, but I think it helped fit the tone and the mood for this film. I had no issues with the sound quality. I thought the sound was aptly done. Sounded good on my system. I thought the DVD looked good. Now, one of the things that I thought was really nice about this particular disc is Chemical Burn Entertainment's not always known for putting a bunch of special features on their discs. On this, there was a music video for a song that was in it, and then they had almost like little micro-profile interviews with some of the cast and the crew for the film. And it was very interesting. You're really listening and and hearing true independent filmmakers and actors talking about their job. Talking about the one guy's talking about he was basically a bouncer, and he just takes films when he can. So it's really a nice look at the independent aspect, and it helps you to remember that while you're watching the film. Sometimes I think films like this get overlooked. While there were problems with the film, it's certainly not the worst thing that's out there, and there are great elements to this film. I would love to see more work from this director and see where else he can go with it. Philip Gardner is the director. I know one of my fellow reviewers on Horror Society was not the biggest fan of this particular film. I kind of laugh at that when I read his review. And then it's just the way that we view indie film differently. Overall, I would give this film as a rating, I would probably give it a 2 out of 5. Like I said, there are elements there that are good. I just kind of wish they had gone more in that direction when it comes to what really powered the zombies. Some more of the motivation of, the Nazis. What were the beatings really making the zombies that much stronger? A lot of it seemed sexualized in that sense. And again, that makes sense when you talk about movies like Ilsa and SS Hell Camp. Again, movies I had mentioned before that made use of, women in Nazi films, especially women in positions of power in those films. So, like I said, it's a 2 out of 5. I do think that there are things that young and up-and-coming filmmakers can look at in this film and see, oh man, that's really cool, and I see where he was trying to go. So it's not the worst film out there. It's just you keep rooting for it, and just when you think it's going to get there, it's like it just pulls back a little bit. But it's still a film that should be looked at. I think it fits into the Nazi exploitation of it pretty well. This would be, a good beer movie. You're going to have your buddies over. You guys want to watch some B horror. This is perfect for that. As far as an overall goes, an overall of the disc, I like that they added some of the special features onto this. I would give this release a 6 out of 10 overall. So make sure to head on over to Chemical Burn Entertainment. And if this movie is of interest to you, make sure to pick it out. That's www.chemicalburn.org. In about 7 minutes, we're going to have our feature interview with Stephen Biro of Unearthed Films. But before that, we're going to do another Metal Blade Spotlight song. Once again, the band is Visigoth. The CD is The Revenant King. The song is Blood Sacrifice. And you just heard Blood Sacrifice from the CD The Revenant King. That was Visigoth, the band in our Metal Blade Spotlight. But now it's time to get down to some serious business. You know, there are very few people, you hear me come on, and I have the people that I interview come on. And, you know, I respect everyone that I have on and that I interview. But this guy right here, Stephen Biro, this is a guy that I, you know, he was really good to me when I was coming up as a journalist. He still does what he does. He's an amazing guy. Stephen, welcome to the show.
How you doing, Michael? It's glad to be talking to you again.
I know. You know, it's funny. I went back, and 12 years ago, I'll never forget that, 12 years ago, I had gone with my ex-wife down to Florida to visit her family and found out that you lived 30 minutes away, and I still tell people to this day, you know, when I contacted you about the interview back then, you were so gracious, you know, you had me out to your house, you know, we did a 2-hour videotape interview with your partner. It was just amazing, and it really meant a lot to me as a young journalist getting into the field to have someone with your determination, you know, treat me that way. And you know, I'm here to do the same with you, man. So much has gone on with you in Unearthed Films in this 12 years. Tell everyone right now how you're doing, man, and the success of everything that's going on with you right now.
I'm like a kid in a candy store, not with diabetes, but it seems like Unearthed Films is reinvigorated. It seems like the independent horror scene has grown to a maximum size now, and it's really wonderful. I mean, I can't believe the amount of kudos and outpouring of love that I'm getting. You know, it's pretty intense, actually. I'm not used to it, you know. I'm used to being behind the scenes, and you know, and people knew me as the guy from Unearthed, you know. But it's like, you know, it's almost like Don May from Synapse or Lustig from Blue Underground, and then the other DVD companies, you know, you knew they had owners, but you really didn't know a lot of their names. And you know, since I started writing and whatnot, and then that broke me out a little bit, and people were actually amazed that I could write. It took me a long time to figure it out. I was atrocious back in the day. When you met me, oh yeah, if I would have wrote for you like a paragraph, you'd be like, "What is this 5th grader bullshit?"
You know what's funny though, and I don't have the video anymore. I would love to find it, but people.
I was gonna say I would love to see that.
If I can find it, I will make sure that you get it. But the funny thing with that is I tell people ask me. Because, you know, like you said, I'm one of the few people that can say, hey, you know, I met Stephen back in the day. You know, I know the guy that owns this company. A lot of people back then didn't know who you were. And they were like, what was Stephen like? And I'm like, and it's still true to this day, but you're so smart, you're so articulate. The guy that you meet is not the guy that you think you will meet having watched the films that you guys put out. You know, I mean, it's true, and it's a compliment. It really is. You know, it's the whole don't judge a book by its cover, so to speak. You know, kind of, I guess we could take it back to the comic book days and the Video Mayhem days, but, you know, kind of tell people how you first got into all of this.
Well, I used to be a hardcore comic book collector, and for some odd reason, I could pick winners. And it was before the explosion of the Bad Girl days, where Vampirella, Lady Death, She, you know, any female comic book character with big titties. And I was buying up all that stuff, and then I started buying them up in multiples, like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, and Warrior Nun Ariella, Faust, and, you know, I was really pushing Tim Vigil, and next thing I know, I was sitting on, like, a gold mine. And I'm like, well, I got all these films that are almost like stocks. so I need to try and sell these, and I set up a booth at a local small convention, and I made a killing. I ended up quitting my cooking job at Applebee's, and I started doing the comic book conventions, and I was always the one with the hottest comics. And I was actually setting the price on these things, and when I put a comic book that was hot and that nobody else had in a convention, and I'm like, boom, $60, suddenly everybody followed suit. And it was really an amazing time because the comic book industry was exploding, and people were jumping on board, and the comic books were getting crazy prices, and Death of Superman and Batman getting his back broken, and Tim Vigil was like on fire, and luckily it grew until we opened up a comic book store, and then I got into offering the comic book customers bootlegs from Japan. All the Dragon Ball Z and the Kung Fu flicks from Hong Kong, and I was a hardcore Gore fan since I was 13. So I started sneaking in all of these ultra-rare horror films that nobody's ever seen. So suddenly, boom, everybody started coming, renting those things like Cannibal Holocaust, Necromantic, Guinea Pigs, and terrible as it sounds, my business partner who I opened up a comic book store with screwed me over. And I ended up just like leaving. I mean, we had like $1 million inventory, and I'm like, dude, just give me all the copies of the movies, the VCRs, and the computer, and I'll go on my way. And that's exactly what I did. And then Video Mayhem was born, and it was a different time. If you talk to some of the directors now who were heavily bootlegged back in the day, I mean, you couldn't find Argento stuff or the uncut stuff for the life of you. Or, you couldn't find Necromantic, couldn't find most of the stuff. And they actually looked back in that time that it was good because it got their name out. I've actually paid a couple of the filmmakers whom I bootlegged. When I first met Jim Van Bebber, I'm like, dude, hey, I had Deadbeat at Dawn on my bootleg site back in the day, and I think I only sold 2. So here's $20. And he's like, dude, just buy the beer. And I said, okay, I'll buy the beer.
Well, there you go.
So it just grew.
Now,
go ahead.
Interesting thing. I remember when I first talked to you, of course, Unearthed was really getting off the ground. The Guinea Pig series had just come out. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I must have been so full of joy and hope back then.
You were. I mean, it was like a kid at Christmas time. But, what I wanted to ask you was, you said you watched all of these, Japanese gore and, the foreign horror and all that. When you went legit with Unearthed Films and you released the series, what was it you felt about that particular film, that series, that it was a lightning rod? I mean, it really did put Unearthed Films on the map.
Well, at the time, I had my business partner, Paul White, contacted me because I was bootlegging the guinea pigs. And
right.
He hit me up, and he offered to sell them to me, and I'm like, that's too expensive, and to do it legit, got to manufacture, start a website, do this, do that, do this. I'm like, just let's split it 50-50. And he's like, no, can't do that. And then we began talking more, and Paul is a producer, Bride of the Reanimator, Society, The Unnameable, and quite a number of other films. And he's like, okay, look, if we're going to start this company, here's what we can get, junk, and we can get, Aftermath and Evil Dead Trap. He gave me a list of films to get. And I'm like, dude, if we go with the guinea pigs, I'm like, this is one of my all-time favorite movies. I'm like, we can go with the guinea pigs, then we're going to make a splash because people are just going to be like, holy shit, a company just started, and the first release is the guinea pig films. This company's not fucking around. They're going to be the Ultra Gore company. So that's exactly what I was going for. Because you release the guinea pigs as your first release, the horror fan should know, okay, this company's going for the throat, and they're going to continue to go for the throat. So this I got to keep an eye on.
Now, I remember asking you back then, and I'm interested to see what you thought has changed since then. I remember asking you about the Battle Royale series because that wasn't long after Columbine and all of that, and I know that you guys had tried to get the film, and the home company was afraid of public outcry here in the States. What do you think changed over all those years, and do you feel that the release that was given was suitable to what Unearthed Films would have done for that?
Well, Battle Royale, we actually handled the international sales for it when it first hit. And, we had Anchor Bay interested in it. We had Media Blaster. Everybody was interested. They wanted $200,000. The same thing with Versus. And then all the companies were like, oh, well, Columbine just happened. And then that scared the Japanese company. And the final release, I actually didn't pick it up. I mean, I've seen the movie so many times, and what was it? Was it South Korea's release of it where it was 3 DVDs and it had everything? I mean, that's what we would have done with it. I mean, we probably would have done a couple of other interviews with some big-time directors or film producers or people just to talk about how wonderful and amazing the film is, so there wouldn't have been too much more. But yeah, the 3-disc release from South Korea I think was the best. I don't know what the release was here, but I'm glad it finally did come out because it took forever.
What do you think changed in society that people that they were no longer afraid to release it?
Well, because no matter what happens, there's always going to be some crazies out there who are going to kill innocent people. And
right.
they're not doing it from the films. I mean, you never heard that John Wayne Gacy or Jeffrey Dahmer was a collector of horror.
Right.
If that ever happens, then then the government might turn an eye to the horror industry. But so far, no. Everybody that's in the horror genre, they might be pissed off at the world. They might be pissed off at their wife. They might have a shitty job, but they actually have a catharsis in watching rubber bodies getting ripped apart and not have to do anything like that. Yeah.
Now, I remember it was a couple years later, and I was working at Musicland Sam Goody, and I'm pretty sure you know where I'm going with this. You guys were getting ready to release Aftermath on DVD.
Right.
And I remember I was so excited about that because it showed up in our company's release records. And then I found out that Musicland Sam Goody had banned the film. Best Buy had banned the film. None of these places would even special order it. And I remember I wrote a huge article about it, did a big write-up with you about it. And now, of course, through the retrospect of time, through hardcore collectors, the film is looked at as something to behold in the genre. Were you surprised back then, considering the fact that you got the Guinea Pig series into big box stores, that they balked at Aftermath?
I was amazed, but I also knew what happened. The sales rep who was handling Aftermath for us was talking to the lead buyer at Best Buy, and it was a young girl. And she's like, oh, what's this Aftermath about? And the buyer actually told me, he's like, well, it's about necrophilia. And she's all bubbly, and she's like, oh, what's necrophilia? And the agent said that his heart sunk because he knew he would have to explain it to her.
Oh, no.
And he's like, well, it's about having sex with dead bodies. And she's like, oh, my God, we can't carry that in Best Buy. This is a family store, da-da-da. Needless to say, guinea pigs were on the shelves at the time.
Oh, yes. And it was funny because I remember going into a Best Buy, saying something to the manager about ordering it, said no, and I took him over there, and I was like, you have the Guinea Pig series on the shelf in your store. I probably shouldn't have done that. They probably took it out of the store after that. But, I really did. I mean, as, I get it as a parent, you're worried that, your child might see something you don't want them to see. But on the other hand, that's why a rating system exists. I know you want to see your CD or your movies in every
right.
outlet that you can get them in, but does it bother you even now to this day and age? How selective society is about what gore is acceptable and what gore isn't.
Oh, well, that's a whole other question in a different ballpark, because I can understand. I'm getting movies nowadays and independent movies, and they're filled with real pee, real poo, cum,
right.
Cutting, vomit, and I can see why, some of that stuff doesn't go out. But on the other hand, the buyers for the retailers don't watch the films. So they're not really just passing on films because of the content anymore. They're just buying films now if it has enough buzz online.
Right.
And the retailers now are almost defunct. Blockbuster, Hollywood Movie Gallery, Suncoast Video. They're all gone. And all the independent mom and pop video stores are gone too. And now everybody just goes to the local Redbox. Who, and I've had people, oh no, there's tons of movies in Redbox. I'm like, no, there's not. There's about 150 movies total. And that's your choice. And Netflix, actually, they took over. And before, they used to carry everything. I haven't had a movie get into Redbox since Frankenhooker?
Wow.
Since Frankenhooker. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's not because, they're trying to slow down on their shipping out DVDs. And they're trying to move towards their VOD selection, but they're not, if you look at their VOD selection, they have maybe about 800 films total. And 200 of those are public domain things that were given to them by companies that just, it's like, oh yeah, here, we'll pocket $2,000 real quick. So they're just focusing on the big boys, because I couldn't even imagine what it costs to pick up Superman, the new one, for VOD streaming. Because once they have it, you don't get any more money. Last deal I did with Netflix, we got them, this is crazy, they took Aftermath, Philosophy of a Knife, Red Room 1, Sex Galaxy, Flexing with Monty, and Visions of Suffering. And they even took Slaughtered Vomit Dolls, but they pulled that after 2 months due to content. But they took it, and Red Room 1 they took, and then once they went over the quality control, they were like, oh, well, no, we can't put this out, because it's there's a part where a light bulb is put into a woman's vagina, but you don't see it, and it breaks, right? So it's implied. Meanwhile, they canceled Red Room 1, but meanwhile they took Philosophy of a Night where they actually show us shoving a cockroach in a vagina. And they had Aftermath up there, and it was nice. They bought the films for like $3 or $4 each, but then the cost of the quality control for their VOD took away half of the profit.
Oh man.
And yeah, no, it's just, so there's not much out there now for movie goers. I know movie people loved going into a video store and finding hidden gems and, and being stuck with only what's in the video stores. But now it's even worse, and that's one of the reasons why the online piracy and torrents is insane now, because the people can't find this stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I feel the same way you do about it. I've done a couple of films. Nothing on the level of what you guys have released, but I get it. Even when I review stuff, it's either sent to me by the company or I buy it. I don't have it in me to illegally download a movie that is not mine or that I'm not paying for. I can only imagine. But one of the things I wanted to ask you was, what's been really cool about the Unearthed Film DVDs and Blu-rays is, you guys run limited print runs, so, people need to get them when they come out because they often sell out.
Right.
What are your thoughts on what a lot of new filmmakers are doing? You have the Orphan. The guy Matt Farnsworth who did The Orphan Killer. They did their own self-distribution. They had done stats and shown that the movie had been illegally downloaded over 1 million times. What are your thoughts on screening your films at film festivals? Do you like VOD? Do you think DVD and Blu-ray are going to eventually die?
Well, Blu-ray is terrible right now. So many people I know do not have Blu-ray players, much less high-def TVs. And
right.
If they do upgrade to a Blu-ray player, it up-converts their DVDs.
Right.
And I know there's tons of problems with some of the Blu-rays, because a lot of them I hear they're not playing on all the Blu-ray players. I think that over a period of time, now they're talking 4K TVs. And so many films and so many films in shot on video can't be upgraded to 4K.
Right. You can see the flaws all the way through it if they did that.
Yeah. And now Red Camera is making 6K, 8K, and 16K new cameras. And I'm sorry, but if you're going to watch a horror movie on 4K, the effects are probably going to look like crap. And you're going to see everything.
Since you're behind the camera now, okay, and you're directing, and you've put films out over the years. What are your thoughts? How much better can the definition really get? For the novice, what's the difference between 4K, 8K, 16K?
The difference is your movie's going to look more like crap. There's a reason why the softness of film, at 16 frames a second, 24 frames a second on some. I know we're scanning a bunch of films right now, and there's a reason why it's 24 frames per second, because it's how the eye reacts. And that's why movies have that look. Well, 29 frames per second, which is video, it looks like crap. But it can be taken down. And, we shot American Guinea Pig on a Super 8mm, and we had it telecined at 1080p, which is, what Blu-ray is. But we took that down because it was just way too clear, And taking it down to, VHS, which is 480, which is what the other camera was shooting on, really helps makes the effects look so much better. I'm hearing a huge groan from all the special effects artists out there, because they're like, 2K is just going to make our effects even look worse. And at 4K, it's going to make them even look worser, which is not a word, but I'm using it because it's worser. And when they're doing the 8K and this now, it's going to lose some of the magic, because it's movies and special effects is about sleight of hand. It's a magician's trick.
Agreed.
And if we're going to try to continue to make something fake, then these 4K cameras are just going to really destroy practical effects in a way. And the CGI just looks so stupid now in a way, because now I'm really paying attention to it. When I see, 300, whatever, what the sequel to 300, and everybody's getting sliced, and there's the CGI blood all over the place, and it looks like Jell-O. And it's like just get some tubes in there.
Yeah, as an effects artist, I prefer practical effects, and I'm 99% sure you feel the same way on that.
Mhm. Oh yeah, no, practical effects all the way. I can understand. I can definitely understand enhancement. If you watch Philosophy of a Knife, a lot of the rooms that we show is actually CGI, but nobody notices it. And all of the effects are practical, but there's tiny little enhancements, that when somebody's thrown into a decompression chamber, and then we show the eyeball, and the pressure starts building up, and then the veins in the eyeball go. Right. Yes, that is CG. Okay, but there's no way we could replicate that with practical, unless it was like an eyeball that was 2 feet big. You know,
well, since you went ahead and brought it up, let's go ahead and go in this vein for a minute. You brought up American Guinea Pig. I have not been fortunate enough to have seen the film yet, but I have watched the trailer and what footage I've been able to find on the internet, and I'm absolutely stunned by what I see. You know, I remember asking you back in the day, you know, were there any more guinea pig films? Would we ever see any more? And you said, as far as the original series, that at that point had been all that was made. What made you now, after all of these years, decide to do, quote unquote, an American guinea pig, and how many of them are we going to see?
I love the guinea pig movies.
Oh, yes.
But I mean, everybody knows that by now, you know. And I was wanting to, I mean, it was just full-on gut-busting gore that didn't hide behind bad characters or bad story development, or it just went straight for the throat. So they were refreshing, you know.
Right.
And I've been trying to, since, you know, when we picked up the guinea pig things, I've been trying to get the rights to redo the Guinea Pig series, to make a new one. And then finally it happened because the president of the company that produced the films is retiring. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever, guys, here, do you go ahead, you know, here. And we did the deal. And I'm like, okay, well, how do we start the new series? Well, let's go with the prequel, because that's what Bouquet, Guts, and Gore is. It's the prequel, because on Flower, Flesh, and Blood, at the beginning of the movie, the director plainly states that somebody sent him a snuff film, he watched it, he turned it over to the police, and then he reimagined it for his fans, and this is what he created, which was Flower, Flesh, and Blood. So we wanted to do the first film that he actually saw, got the ideas, and then went with. And I figured that'll get the new series going, because now we can go wherever we want. And we have crazy storylines, intense graphic gore. And, you know, I know people, oh, there's no plot. Well, you know, sometimes you don't need a plot, buddy.
Well, you know, and that was what I found fascinating about The Devil's Experiment, which is, of course, was the first Guinea Pig movie, if I'm correct on that.
Right.
You know, what it was for me, being an effects artist, I sat there and I watched that film. And I'm sure you know this. You probably did this with VHS and everything back in the day. Something would happen in that film, and I would be like, I didn't just fucking see that. And I would rewind it. And I would look at it. And I would study it and break it down. And as an effects artist, I was like, there's no way that that's fake. And, of course, you know, we know it is. We know about the whole thing with it being investigated as a snuff film and stuff like that. But I'm curious, you know, with the history and everything that the series has, you know, what's it been like? You know, have you had it out to any conventions? Have you screened it? You know, what's response been to this?
Oh, yeah. We had the first screening was at the House Core Horror Film Festival by Phil Anselmo in Austin, Texas. It went over like gangbusters. 20 people had to leave. And a lot, we showed it and people were just squirming. They wanted to leave, but they didn't want to leave because they had to walk past me and Scott. Scott Gabby, he plays the director there. And so they had to walk right past me and the actor in the movie, and a lot of them didn't want to. And they came up to us after the film, and they're like, dude, I had so much internal dialogue. Do I like this? Who am I for watching this? What kind of a person am I? And you know, so it's great because it pushes buttons. We showed it at a couple of local premieres here in Tampa. We did Atlanta Days of the Dead, and I'm showing it this weekend at Culture Shock Days of the Dead this weekend. Malcolm McDowell will be there, George Romero, John Waters. At Shock, I know they're not going to probably watch it.
Get John Waters to watch it.
I don't know. But at Shock Pop, we were showing it, and we were trying to show it, and the convention center actually canceled it.
I was going to ask you about that. I had heard that there had been some cancellations.
Yeah, there've been some cancellations, and I think, since it was Comic-Con, and I think it was the first time they've had a Comic-Con there, they didn't know what to expect because it was half comic book, half horror.
Sure.
And the horror people are rowdy, you know. I've been to some horror conventions, and some of the tables, they have a keg.
Hey, you know.
Yeah, I know, you know, so they're like, oh, and this and that. So, and I think what happened was they probably pulled up the movies just to take a look and see what the heck it is, because they already didn't want us to show it.
Right.
And I think they saw the trailer and was like, oh, yeah, no, this is a family cruise line convention center. and the guy from Shock Pop was really gracious. He was he was fighting to get the movie shown, from Adam Albrandt's Hunters, James Bickert's Dear God No, and American Guinea Pig. But American Guinea Pig was the first one. And so, so it went down. But I think it worked out great because, you know, everybody was talking about it again.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, the guinea pigs, when we first announced it, there was a huge collective sigh on the internet. Oh no, America is going to fucking redo one of our beloved Ultra Gore franchises. They're going to fuck it up. And then when we made the announcement of who's involved, James Van Beber, Rogan Russell Marshall, Scott Gabby from Ultraviolent, Marcus Cook, Jimmy Screamer Claus, and everybody started looking at the pedigree. Then they were like, well, it's done by the guy from President of Unearthed Films, so, but he's directing, it's his first movie. I don't know. We'll wait.
I didn't have that
now
fear.
that it's,
I can't wait till I see this film.
Oh,
it's the trailer is mind-blowing, you know. So, you know, you talked about how you guys shot it on 8mm and stuff, and, you know, it really shows. It has that old-school, grainy, grindhouse look, and the effects, again, from what you see in that trailer, are absolutely stunning. So I absolutely cannot wait till I can either order a copy or catch it somewhere.
Well, we have it. We're doing, because the torrents are so bad right now. I decided to, the release date for A Bouquet of Guts and Gore is June 24th. But I decided to head off the bootleggers, or the pirates, and offer it for pre-sale for 2 months through Indiegogo. And we're offering limited edition Gore covers with all sorts of extras that you won't be able to get on the retail version. And we offered that 2 months ago. It was supposed to end last week, but the amount of traffic, the amount of sales, and the amount of buzz that it's garnered on the internet, Indiegogo actually came to us and said, look, your film has garnered this much traffic, this much sales, and this much this and that. We want to keep this up for as long as you want it to.
Well, I'll tell you off the bat, Stephen, if you send me that info, I'll put it up on Horror Society.
Okay, yeah. We didn't, and we haven't even, I was going to do a press release and send it out to everybody, but the Facebook has just exploded with it, you know, and it's actually grown so much that I haven't even done that. And, you know, we're selling it since the movie's done. It's not like you're pre-buying a DVD that you'll get in a year.
Right.
You know, the movie's done. It's done. So you can buy props and heads, and I've sold out the eyeball editions and the fingers edition, and we actually the skinned body that we used. We actually cut 1 inch by 1 inch squares. So you can buy the ounce of flesh edition, which you get the DVD, a poster, and you get a piece from one of the bodies. with a certificate of authenticity.
Yeah, please send me that. I will put something big up on Horror Society. In fact, I'll order mine through that. I mean, that's just outstanding.
It's different, and and we'll have, and what we're doing is we're shipping those out the end of March, the beginning of April.
Okay.
And I mean, so far, I mean, the Indiegogo, wow, I mean, it's blown people's minds. It's done over $30,000 so far.
That's amazing.
So we've already done. We're already in the middle of making the next Guinea Pig movie called Bloodshock, and it's going to be directed by Marcus Cook, who did the effects for Bouquet, and I'm writing it. So that's the only thing with all these guinea pigs is that I'm working with a bunch of other directors because we're going for 6 to 8 films in the new series. 6 if it starts to peter out, 8 if the people are just going nuts. And I'm going to be working. Yeah, I'm going to be working with every director on the screenplays because I'm a sick, twisted bastard. and I've seen like almost every movie back from, I've seen way too much horror. So I know what's been seen, I know what's been done. I've read almost every comic book back in the day up until 1998. So I know what stories have been used and regurgitated. So I think, we'll be able to bring viewers something totally new and interesting with every guinea pig movie that's never been done before, and everybody's going to know it's going to be ultra gore. But if we can get, if we can bring it in to where, because then nobody can bitch about, there's no plot or no story or character development. It's like, no, guys, that's the first one. Come on. we're working on a new series. Okay, this bridges the two. Just relax. You don't have to see this one, but I know you'll be interested in the next one.
Now, it seems like your sense of humor came out in another film. Tell us a little bit more about Bubba the Redneck Werewolf.
Bubba the Redneck Werewolf is a comic book property from what used to be a great dear friend by the name of Mitch Hyman. And he was originally supposed to make the Bubba the Redneck Werewolf film with Sid Haig.
Oh, wow.
Shenanigans happened. Yes, shenanigans happened. Sid Haig was supposed to direct it and star in it. But shenanigans happened, and so it never got made. And I was getting ready to work on the guinea pig things, and I'm talking to Mitch, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, let's make Bubba a reality." And he's like, "Okay," and he's written a bunch of comic books, but he's also let other writers, write the comic books for him. And so I wrote the screenplay, and I knew exactly where I wanted him to go. I knew I wanted the feel of the original werewolf making a deal with the devil. And so I wrote the screenplay, and I was set to direct it, and we had a great crew from Anju Films, and young guys, but they're go-getters, and they know what they're doing. So we had these guys, and I brought in everybody. I had Patty Mullen coming in. I had Jim Van Beber coming in. Scott Gavey was going to play Bubba the Redneck Werewolf when he was in human form. And I had 8 the Chosen One ready to be, how do I say it, the Batman. And everybody loved the friggin' screenplay, and I had a bunch of other people. I handed it to my friend Rogan Russell Marshall just to make sure all the grammar was perfect and stuff. And I went over it, and I worked with some of the best in the independent underground industry, and they were all ready to be involved. And that's when somebody's ego exploded all over everybody. That's it happens in the film industry because everybody's so full of them fucking selves. And what happened was I started getting all the praise and whatnot because I was directing it and I wrote it. And the comic book guy, it's my. And then he started telling us that the damn producers were from the mafia.
Oh, lovely.
And he started telling people, oh, well, there's going to be someone on the set, and, if anything goes wrong, you're going to have to answer for it, and blah, 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 blah. And he even threatened these kids. And I'm like, you stupid bastard. I don't care where you got the money. You don't fucking do that. And it's all imaginary. The guy's just filled with imaginary bullshit. And he'll tell you, he's one of these guys you'll talk to, and he seems pleasant enough, and he'll tell you how awesome you are. And it's to tell you how awesome he is. And so, he exploded, and, I owned actually the rights to the movie, and he's like, okay, well, here's the deal, blah, 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 I'll buy the screenplay from you, and you can direct it. Oh, no, we're fired. We're all fired. The budget's been pulled away. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? It's all fired. And then the next minute, he's like, okay, well, I can give you $2,000 for the screenplay, and you can do this, and you can direct it, and you'll get 10%. And then it slowly started rising until, and I'm like, okay, 1 minute you tell me the mafia pulled the budget, and the next minute suddenly the budget's back, and I'm hired again. And I'm like, dude, you're just so fucking full of yourself. And this is all opinion, mind you. This is my opinion for what happened in my head, right? So I'm like, dude, no, here, I'm going to take this for the screenplay, and I'm out. Well, you can just still direct. I'm like, no, dude, you're fucking nuts. And what's cool is that when he hit me up, he's like, okay, well, blah, 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 you need to tell me now. You need to tell me now. And I'm like, dude, I got to call my dad. I got to call my dad. And he's like, what? You don't talk to your dad? I'm like, I know, because I've known this guy for 20 years. And I'm like, no, I got to call my dad because I need his advice. And he's like, okay, well, I'll call you back in an hour after you talk to your dad. And, hangs up. Instead of my dad, I called every fucking filmmaker I knew. Everybody from Mike Gonzalez to fucking, Van Beber to Greg Lamberson. I mean, I hit my Rolodex up, and everybody got 10 minutes. And they're like, dude, the guy's nuts, fucking take the money and run. Next guy, dude, the guy's nuts, take the money and run. Next guy, dude, the guy's nuts, take your money and run. And I'm like, okay. So I called him. What'd you do? He called me right at 59 minutes and 58 seconds later. And he's like, well, what'd your dad say? And I'm like, oh, my dad said give me this amount of money and fucking walk. Oh, well, I don't know if I can do that, blah, blah, blah. But I wrote him in as the devil in the movie because, that helps inflates his ego and gives him a thing. Now, the thing is, he does play an awesome devil, okay? He does. And so, we did the deal and stuff, and he's like, yeah, we met at a bank like a Mexican standoff. Signed the contracts, I got the cash. And he said, well, now you can go make American Guinea Pig and this and that. I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, thanks, and later, dude. And I've heard since then the guys went nuts on set and was telling everybody, oh, Steve's putting me down on the Facebook and he's doing this. And I was like, no, dude, I wasn't. Okay, I haven't even said anything yet. But since then, the guy ended up getting me kicked out of author panels at Spooky Empire. And they refused to tell me why, but I know that's, yeah. And then, I know I've had problems with the guy and stuff, so I'll probably end up writing a blog because there's some other stupid crap coming up with conventions and stuff that if it doesn't get rectified, then I'm just going to rip on some people. Because, I don't mind doing conventions. Conventions are awesome. They're the lifeblood. You got to promote, push, and market, and actually make some money. And it seems like I could be kicked out of a convention now forever just because I dared to do another con. And it's like, yeah, so it's just a big screw-up fuck. But the cool thing is, I heard Bubba premiered at Spooky Empire last Halloween. And supposedly, everybody had a blast and everybody laughed because the guys from Unearthed Films, they had a guy named Brendan Rogers, who I'm good friends with. He directed it instead of me. And since the screenplay was already all done and they had the storyboards all done, hopefully they do it. I know I'll still probably get pissed off watching the damn thing. So I plan on buying a couple of pawn shop TVs. 3 or 4 of them just to have so I can throw a full beer through.
Nice.
You fuck this up and then set up the thing and then continue watching it. And then another beer through the TV. But everybody did say that they laughed
through it. For that one. I want to experience that.
Well, I'll probably sit here because Jim Van Beber was supposed to be Biker Dave in it, or Biker Dan or something, and Scott Gabby was supposed to be Bubba. So we'll probably all sit here and we'll record our reactions, and then put it up. And the crazy thing is the poor bastard. He refuses to tell anybody. He had me on the Facebook page, and he took me off the Facebook page as the writer. And he's forced legally he's allowed to use my name, to help gain, buzz or whatnot, but he refuses to because, he's wacky. But it's on the IMDb page, and it's in the credits and stuff, but he's refused to even announce me or say that I'm the writer, which is a shame because, I was proud of that screenplay. I mean, when the nutso started happening, I had people say, dude, fuck him, turn the monster into, like, Bubba the Redneck creature from the Black Lagoon or something. And I had people wanting to buy it, and I'm just like, I'm not going to destroy this guy's dreams, So it's going to be out there, and it should be fucking hilarious. It just doesn't have any of the characters any of the actors that I wanted in there, and it's not going to have it's probably more of like a goofy comedy thing with hints of darkness that was originally in the screenplay because I wanted a little bit darker.
Right.
So yeah. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I wish him the best of fucking luck, But yeah.
Something I'd asked you back in the day, and I'll ask you again, since of course you put films out, you're making films now, of course, the American Guinea Pig and all that. I had asked you, do you still to this day feel, is there any movie that you wouldn't pick up and put out? Is there just something out there that's so heinous that you don't even think it should go on the Unearthed label?
Well, nowadays, I think I brought it up already. I'm seeing a lot of these independent movies where there's pee, poo, cum, vomit, and cutting. Okay, and we released the vomit gore movies, right? But now everybody's just trying to go for this over-shock value. I mean, it's going to, like, totally, flatten everybody because it's like, okay, I've already seen all that, and that's why with the Guinea Pigs movie, it's all practical effects. I'm not going to have to, throw in somebody vomiting or cutting because, look at how hardcore I am. So there's a bunch of movies that, that I won't put out now just because it's like, oh, hey, yeah, there's a chick taking a shit. Oh, hey, it's 4 minutes long. Oh, hey, awesome. There's websites for that. This isn't horror. It's shock, So there's a couple that I was trying to put out Melancholia de Angels, but the guy who made Cannibal, and the thing is, they actually kill a fucking cat in it. And at first he was proud of it. He's like, "Oh no, we killed a real cat." And then people flipped out, and I had other, filmmakers, dude, if you release that, I'm going to lose all respect for you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, and there's a guy, whacking off, and there's fisting in the ass or something like that. And I'm like, we're the only ones who could put it out. And I'm like, I got cats, I'm an animal lover and shit. I'm like, I'll just let this one, fucking squeak by, because, no. I don't need that shit, So there's plenty of movies to where I'm like, that actually doesn't deserve real distribution. Sorry, guys.
Now, just as an interesting note to that, in your opinion, what do you feel was the biggest one that got away?
Oh, there's a shitload, dude.
Well, I know you
Battle Royale versus
the series. Yeah.
Well, Necromantic, I set up, and I had the contract for Der Todesangel. It's never been released on DVD here. Barrel already did Necromantic, and they put out an amazing version. We actually sold Necromantic to Barrel.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but, and I was actually set to start putting out Bootgreit's thing, but we just got ripped off by a company called, we'll just call them BG. and they screwed us for $44,000. So that like put us in a sort of screw up thing. So we didn't end up getting them, but whoever got them, I forget who the heck got them. Was it Cult Epics or something? Or I forget.
They
but
sent me copies for review, and it's amazing what they had on there. But back in the day, that was one of those titles. When again you look at the legacy of what Unearthed has put out, and I was like, man, it is just, when are they going to put that out? And I was happy to see him come out, but I was sad it wasn't through you guys, because I always wondered what the hell would have gone through your mind and what you would have put on some of those discs, because, those are boundary-pushing films, to say the least.
Right, well, they were. Actually, if you watch it now, and it's the threesome, and it's all artsy-fartsy with the shadows and stuff like that. You're like, okay, and to me, Necromantic 2 is the better. Because they don't have the guy running through the fields throwing up throwing up a head that was clearly made out of paper mache, going wee wee. So it's got its moments in there, and of course it's got its hokey moments. A lot of European movies do. But I'm really looking forward to what Jörg Bouquet is doing with the new anthology movie that's coming out, and I hope to actually talk to Bouquet for the new American Guinea Pig series.
Oh, that would! Oh, man!
You see? No, you guys don't know what I'm trying to do here. So if we can,
the only thing to me that would complete that series is if you manage to pull Olaf Ittenbach as well, just because I finally got a copy of Burning Moon on DVD.
That was I was trying to buy that too back in the day, but we got ripped off by a different distributor, so that fell through our cracks. If you guys knew all the films that we were going to put out, but we got ripped off. I think that our biggest rip-off was from Ventura Distribution that got us for $1.2 million in profit.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and that was like our third year in business, but we put out the Guinea Pig box set and Rock and Rule and Aftermath. We were kicking fucking ass, but we got ripped off with all that money. If we would have had even half of that, oh yeah, Unearthed would be in a totally different position right now.
Oh my God!
But I have to say, running Unearthed Films with no money and still fucking achieving what we have has taught me how to pinch a fucking penny, run it, and kick some fucking ass. And now, with so many other DVD companies now out of business, that there's a renaissance now. And we have 15 more movies lined up in our arsenal right now.
Oh.
And we're getting ready to start a different section for Unearthed. I'm not going to announce it yet, because it's okay. When it does, it's that people are going to go nuts, and they're going to be like, holy shit, what the hell's going on with Unearthed? And it's going to, the future's looking really good. I'm really excited, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun, and the fans are going to be very happy.
I can't wait. We've got a couple minutes left, and I definitely wanted to get this in. A lot of people may not realize it, but of course you guys have a music division and you have a publishing division. You have Unearthed Music Group and you have Unearthed Books. Of course, several of your books have been released through that series, but kind of tell people what you are releasing through those two other channels of Unearthed.
Well, the Unearthed Music Group is hardcore horror rap. It's a separate genre away from rap, but they rap about Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Reanimator, and it's actually really damn good music. It's really heavy, it's really dark, and a lot of these guys who do this stuff, they do self-releases. So, we started talking to them and started releasing it through the retail markets. And then the other section of the Unearthed Music Group is speedcore. And that is insane music that goes at 320. It's extreme hardcore, fucked up techno music at 320 beats per minute. Very hard to masturbate to. but you can't. and that's where Jimmy Screamer Claus, who was director of Where the Dead Go to Die, jumped on board. And right now, we're working with him, and he looks like he's into the whole Guinea Pig series. So hopefully, I'll be able to keep him on board for the music aspect of that. And then the Unearthed Books, we started. I wrote my first book, which was the Ultimate Dead Baby Joke book, and I wrote it on a dare from my last ex-wife.
You can't.
I know, I'm sorry, but I did. And I wrote it, and all of Europe went nuts, and it was covered in BBC Radio, The Sun, The Mirror. They were giving us double-page spreads with outraged mothers freaking out and pregnant women, and even the Irish Prime Minister jumped on board saying how they got to get it taken off of Amazon. All of Ireland was like, you fucking bastard, our country is in the shitter, and you're worried about a fucking joke book. And it went so big that I actually wrote the Ultimate Dead Baby Cookbook. And once I put that out there during the whole hype, they all realized how much marketing and free advertising they're giving me. And I was getting so many death threats too, but that's why I kept my name off the book. And then I went out with Hallucination, which is my memoir about trying to find God, taking as much LSD and nitrous oxide as I could to get visionary hallucinations and try to find, my way to God. And I found the devil. I went to hell. But the Lord did show up. He kicked my ass, and it changed who I am. Changed everything about me, which was really cool. That happened before you met me, before I brought you into my house for that interview.
Right.
And I was trying to figure out how to write it without sounding completely batshit insane. It took me a long time, and then we released that as the second book in the Unearthed Books. And that did amazing. I was actually in talks to get it produced into a $20 million Hollywood big-budget movie. But some of the producers freaked out over the content. But we had like 5 or 6 meetings for it. And they were just worried that they're like, oh, well, we want to push the Christian agenda, but there's some weird shit in here about reincarnation. It's like, well, that's what you get on the way to, the end of the book. So I followed it up with Dialogue with the Devil. I released Destiny West's Lamia, which is ultra-erotic, twisted, fucked-up vampire tale. And I've talked to a couple other writers, and other people have submitted books to us, but nothing seemed to bite, because I want to do the same thing with the books as I do with the label. And,
sure, that makes sense.
and I got a couple of mean-spirited books and shit where the guys are fucking babies and stuff, and they thought that I'd like it because I wrote a joke book about it. But I'm like, dude, there's no, it's just, I don't know. I can understand violence for violence sake. I
Sure.
can definitely understand that. But, it was just like, so we passed. So I haven't released a new book in a bit. But there might be, there's some new, I'm talking to some metal bands right now to where we might end up releasing some death metal. But they're doing so well with their own fan base,
Right.
And, they don't need the retail push. It looks good on paper, though, because there's not many retailers out there. And, I think we got some of our rappers, our horror rappers into Best Buy.
Right.
But, it's just like, it's not, the industry has imploded, so yes, everybody's just running around like a chicken without a head.
It's absolutely just amazing. It's crazy. It's been an hour, and there's still so much more I would ask you, but, I just wanted to, before we let you go, what would you tell fans about your whole experience from your beginnings to now? That was one of the things, that I said earlier in the evening. It was the way you talked about films, the way you talked about striving to be the best, do what you can do, do it, don't just talk about it. And, that really inspired me as a young writer back then. What would you tell your fans and your people now after, almost 15 years with Unearthed Films and everything that's happening now?
no matter what happens, you're going to find a lot of pitfalls. You're going to find a lot of heartbreak. There's going to be a lot of work that you do that's not going to pan out. Don't stop, okay? You might have to live under a bridge, give a couple of blowjobs to some homeless guys, but you know what? It's going to get better. As long as you strive to be who you truly are, and you're honest to yourself and the people around you, the respect and admiration will grow. And somehow, some way, your career is slowly going to step up that ladder. And if you keep going up that ladder, and you're going to find there's rungs fucking missing, you're going to find spider webs all over the place, you just got to keep going, because on your deathbed, when you're laying there barely breathing, you're going to be thinking about what you did with your life. Are you going to be happy? Are you going to say, I gave it my all? Or are you going to sit there in misery and say, I didn't do this. I didn't try this. Why didn't I spend this much time doing this? So you got to keep going for it. You're going to get lambasted. You're going to get beaten. You're going to get broken. But as long as you set your bones and you continue trying to crawl up that fucking ladder, at some time you're going to achieve something that not only you're going to be proud of, everybody around you will be proud of.
I agree.
Don't lose it.
Yeah, Stephen, again, thank you so much for being on. And you're always welcome here. You're always welcome at Horror Society, Living Dead Magazine. If you ever have any news you want out there or put out there, and I'm on your mailing list, but, get it to me and I'll get it out there. Are there any websites, social media, anything like that you want to send people to? Anywhere they can get Unearthed products, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to unearthedfilms.com. There you can actually hit the link for the Indiegogo to pre-buy the American Guinea Pig before it gets bootlegged out the ass. Let me see. That's about it. I mean, you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Biro, and we can chat, and you can tell me some dead baby jokes, and I can tell you some really good dead baby margarita recipes. And I'm opening up to talk to everybody. I'm here for you. And hopefully you guys will be here for me.
You've always got me. You've always got Horror Society. Again, I thank you so much for being on, and I look forward to seeing you and talking to you again in the future.
Thanks, Michael. I really do appreciate it. And my usual hangout on Facebook is Beneath the Underground and Layer of Terror.
All right. We will look for you there. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Okay. Bye.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, that was the incredible producer, actor, writer, director, special effects artist, as well as the CEO and owner of Unearthed Films, Stephen Biro. Make sure to check out American Guinea Pig, Bouquet of Guts and Gore if you have a chance at an upcoming convention. Also head on over to unearthedfilms.com and get your special edition through their fundraiser page. Coming up in a few minutes, we are going to do our second digital dismemberment spotlight for the evening, and that will be on Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of Blacula. But before that, we're going to play the final song in our Metal Blade spotlight for the evening. The name of the band is Visigoth. The song is the CD is The Revenant King. The song is Vengeance. And once again, you just heard the band Visigoth from their CD, The Reverend King. The name of the song was Vengeance. Make sure to head on over to metalblade.com or head over to iTunes to download your copy of The Revenant King. Really enjoyed that. Not quite my usual style of metal, but definitely entertaining to say the least. Just want to let everyone know, of course, as you know, I write for Living Dead magazine as well. Issue 6 of Living Dead magazine is currently available. It is our Rob Zombie issue. The fabulous Dina Utella, managing editor and all-around boss out there, interviews Rob. I got to interview Bill Moseley for that issue, so that was a lot of fun. I also wrote a retrospective on The Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses. So make sure to head on over to livingdeadmagazine.com to pick up issue 6. Make sure to get that soon. Issue 7 will be coming out here, I think, in about another month or so. So you definitely want to get your hands on a copy of that issue. And let us also not forget about the Living Dead's Horror Meets Paranormal Convention 2015. That is November 13th and 15th at the Oregon Convention Center in Portland, Oregon. So as soon as James Beach and Deanna let me know who is going to be on the guest list, other than Lloyd Kaufman, I think that's the only confirmed guest that I am aware of at this point, will be there. But the Dead Man plans on being there, so you should definitely bring your asses out to Portland, Oregon. Come out and support Living Dead Magazine's Horror Meets Paranormal Convention. And of course, you know, I will be representing a horror society while I'm out there as well, and the Calling Hours Horror Podcast. So head on over to livingdeadmagazine.com to get your latest issue and to get information on the Horror Meets Paranormal Convention. But now it's time, once again, for some digital dismemberment.
Digital dismemberment.
And in our second digital dismemberment spotlight this evening, we are covering Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of Blacula. That's also on a double, or 2 films on one disc, as a double feature with Scream, Blacula, Scream. The eternally cool William Marshall puts a fresh spin on the age-old legend of the vampire. Condemned to wander the earth with an insatiable lust for blood, in the riveting blaxploitation classics Blacula and Scream, Blacula, Scream. Both will be available on Blu-ray and DVD March 3rd of this year. This is the first time on Blu-ray for both of them. It will include a brand new audio commentary with author, film historian, filmmaker David F. Walker, and a new interview with Richard Lawson from Scream, Blacula, Scream. Set in 1780, Blacula is the tale of African Prince Mamuwald, I hope I said that right, who pays a visit to Count Dracula in Transylvania, seeking his support in ending slave trade. Instead, the evil Count curses his noble guest and transforms him into a vampire. Released from his coffin nearly 2 centuries later by a pair of luckless interior decorators, Mamuwald emerges as Blacula, one strange dude strolling through the streets of L.A. on a nightly quest for human blood. You know, it's really strange to go back and see this film after all of these years. And of course, for those that didn't know, the film was produced by AIP, American International. It had mixed reviews, but it was one of the top-grossing films for the year. It was also the first film to receive an award for Best Horror Film at the Saturn Awards. And basically what happens is the prince goes to see Count Dracula to stop slave trade between the two countries. Dracula refuses, and as punishment for his quote-unquote insolence, the prince is bitten, and he's chained into a coffin for 200 years. And he's awoken when his coffin is opened by two gay interior decorators back here in the States. He runs into what he believes is his wife. It could be a reincarnation, some kind of karma. And it happens that her sister, Michelle, and her boyfriend, who's a doctor, he's a pathologist for the Los Angeles Police Department, is on a case about bodies being found, with small puncture wounds, drained of blood, and things like that. It kind of takes an interesting twist as the film goes on. Dr. Thomas notices strange things and concludes it to be vampirism. The prince is still going around knocking people off, trying to impress Tina to get him to fall in love with her again. Thomas manages to convince his boss, Lieutenant Peters, played by Gordon Pinson, and gets him to see that the murders are actually being done by a vampire, and these bodies are rising. They go to rescue Tina, but they're jumped by a bunch of minions. And, you have the stakes driven through the heart and shooting vampires and things like that. And eventually, Tina is shot by one of the officers, and Mamawad transforms her into a vampire. She winds up having to be staked and killed by Peters. And because he's so sad about his loss that he can't stand losing her a second time, Mamawad goes to the surface, and the sunlight actually kills him. So it's kind of different. I mean, it's in a lot of ways, it's not really that different from the Dracula tradition. It's just a little bit more of a spin-off, done in a blaxploitation style. I enjoyed it. There may be people who are racially sensitive may not particularly care for some of the language, but during the time, and particularly who it's used by in the film, is appropriate for its time and content. Of course, just a pimped-out, gangster-ass, old-school 70s Dracula. It was a lot of fun to watch it, to go back and see it. I think it looks pretty good considering the age of the film. I think the sound is pretty good. I would give it a 3 out of 5 stars, maybe 3.5. It's definitely entertaining. If it's something you've never seen before, I do think it is a pivotal film in the blaxploitation series of films. Because there were other quote unquote blaxploitation horror films, but the direct draw to Dracula, one of the most iconic characters in genre history, period, I think is really well done. And of course, it was followed up with a sequel in Scream, Blacula, Scream. And of course, we'll talk about that film probably next week. But again, it was really fun to watch, and it was it's a film I think that holds some gravitas in genre history. I know it seems like I'm rambling on that, but it really is. It's a film that should be experienced, and we'll talk about the sequel next week. Special features, there's really not a lot on this. The special feature is for the second film, and that's with the Richard Lawson interview. So it's kind of interesting. Overall, I would give it about the disc a 7 out of 10. I would have liked to have seen a few more special features. A poster and still gallery would have been amazing. But again, just being able to get both of these films in a high definition format is entertaining and makes it worth seeing. So make sure to head on over to Shout or Scream Factory and order your copy today. You should also be able to get it from your big box retailers. I know the FYE near me, I believe, will have it in store. They've been carrying a lot more of the Scream Factory releases. So definitely do that. It may be available on iTunes, so wherever you get your films, make sure to order your copy of Blacula and Scream, Blacula Scream from Shout and Scream Factory. Well, it's been an absolutely stunning show. Again, I was greatly honored to have Stephen Biro of Unearthed Films on. Again, he's a guy who's been very influential in my career. Definitely took care of a young journalist and gave him a story he could run with. And, it's appreciated. I love to see all the work that his company's putting out, how he's gone on to continue his success in films with American Guinea Pig, Bouquet of Guts, and Gore, and the situation that is Bubba the Redneck Werewolf. I wish all the best for him. We hope to have him on again, and hopefully I can get further the interview a little bit at Horror Society and Living Dead magazine. We want to say thank you to our friends at Scream Factory, Tom Chen and crew, for sending us our Scream Factory Blu-ray release of Blacula and Scream, Blacula Scream. And thank you to our friends at Chemical Burn Entertainment for Dead Walkers, Rise of the Fourth Reich. And once again, say thank you to our friends out at Metal Blade Records for sending us our copy of Visigoth. Their most recent CD is The Revenant King. Make sure to head on over to metalblade.com or to iTunes to pick up your copies today. Make sure to tune in to next week's show. It'll be another hell of a show. Not quite ready to release who the guest is, but needless to say, it will be another great discussion on horror. Until then, make sure to check out Living Dead Magazine. Head on over to www.livingdeadmagazine.com. And don't forget to come check me and the rest of the great writers out at Horror Society, www.horrorsociety.com. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Dead Man telling you all to